Welcome to the 2025 Yellow Brick Road store goals video. I've not done this before. I am not a New Year's resolutions type of person at all, and I just have been kind of trying to work out over the last couple of weeks kind of where the store's going to go and what it can achieve in the year ahead. Obviously everything could change over the course of the year, and hopefully not too much will change. But I thought I'd share with you some of my hopes for the store and some of the goals and some of the data that I use to try and plan the year ahead in this short presentation. So let's dive into it and see what you think. Any questions, any comments, please leave them down below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of the nonsense that I get up to. And yeah, let's get on with it. So, as most of you probably know, if you're watching this anyway, the store has been going since July 2023, so not a great deal of time in the grand scheme of stores. Pretty much started because I was buying stuff on Bricklink and ended up with a lot of stock that I thought I might as well sell it as well. And it kind of grew exponentially and fairly quickly, and to some people's surprises, and to some people's disgust as well, to the point where I may be banned from buying from some stores to try and prevent me from competing. But last year was kind of the full first year of it, and pretty much full-time, not entirely full-time because I do freelance work in between, so 90% full-time if you kind of can put a measure on it. And anyone that watched the vlogs knows I don't take it too seriously. I certainly don't like all of the stuff that a lot of bricklinkers like. You know, I'm not a fan of parting out. I'm not a fan of used lots and things like that. So I don't fit the mold perfectly. I have a very unique strategy for stock and inventory, or perhaps not totally unique, but not common. And I do share that in the vlogs and things like that. But the purpose of this video is really just to set out some of the objectives for the year ahead. So let's start with looking at the year that's been. In terms of total sales, there were 2,099 of those, that accounting for 345,145 parts sold. Average order value sitting around that 54 mark, which is pretty decent. It fluctuates month on month. Some months it'll be down, some months it'll be up. There seems very little rhyme or reason in that, and anyone that's watched my monthly kind of reporting will know that I track these things. So I'm pretty confident that I know one month will be good, one month will be not so good. In terms of a breakdown of that, I do have used in the store, and that is stuff that I had already. It's pretty much my old Star Wars collection. Some of it's Lone Ranger, some of it is City, some of it is old school space stuff that I've had for years and years and carted around with me from country to country as I have moved. So that accounts for that split in new versus used condition. From the item breakdown, as you can see, parts dominates, as you'd expect most stores. 108 sets, yeah, sold a few, but that will mainly be CMF kind of sets. 822 minifigures, not bad, didn't realise it was that high. And again, the lion's share of those will be Star Wars. 124 instruction books and 2 books. I've no idea what those books are. I'm guessing they are instruction books that are just classified differently, but it does show kind of a good range of stuff that is in the store. The year was kind of fairly big in terms of growth. Not to underestimate kind of the end of 2023. I purchased a store that was more than doubling the store at the time, and anyone that followed the vlogs back then will have seen that journey of integrating the store and everything that went with that. But the growth has been kind of intense since then and deliberate, and at some points we have been up past the kind of the 585, I think, thousand parts, and we've definitely been over the 14,500 lots. But as we stand heading into the beginning of 2025, we'd gone from 332,000 up to 575, which was a growth of 73%. And in terms of lots, that had grown 59%. And to be fair, anyone that has a Bricklink store will know a lot of those lot growths can come, especially when you're adding used. And there was a fair bit of used added during 2024, which will account for a large portion of that growth. There is a difficulty in adding a lot of lots when you're focusing on new, because there just isn't that much out there, and there isn't that many variants and things like that. So adding volume in terms of lots is always difficult with just new on its own. The key lessons from 2024 were really around that seasonality, and by that I don't mean in the sense that you hear a lot of the US and UK Bricklinkers talking about summer being quite slow because people are away. In Australia, I feel like we see a lot less of that, because when it's hot, people stay inside, and when it's cold, people stay inside. So you kind of have this flattening out. What I did notice was kind of middle of the year, kind of July through to October, September, was a slower period of time. And initially I'd kind of put that down to there being an awful lot of sales, an awful lot of sets released. But there was an awful lot happening in the world at that time as well. So we'll see as we go through kind of 2025 whether or not there's a pattern developing. In my first year, the store was quite small, so you weren't really comparing apples with apples. Large order fluctuations, some months you get lots of large orders, and by large I mean over 100 lots or over $100 even. And then some months you'll see very few. And that seemed to be more frequent in the first year, and then has kind of died away towards the second half of 2024. Perhaps that is the cost of living issues that people are facing. Perhaps it's a reflection on inventory. I'm not sure, but again, one of the things that I kind of track, whether or not there'll be ever a pattern in that, I'm not entirely sure. Store efficiencies were really important in 2024, especially in the second half of that when we moved into the bigger room that I'm in now. Using the cart was a big win. Massive, in fact, kind of 3 times efficiency was improved there, as was expansion, having more drawers, more locations. People will know that I kind of have a different system than some stores where I have lots of parts together in different colours, and then they get broken out when they're quite frequently picked. But all of those things will continue through 2025 as the store refines its methodology. Upload effects, kind of go in periods without you uploading, do have kind of a lag effect where you don't have orders, and I've experienced that this week in itself. The week prior didn't do an awful lot of uploading. This week it started to peter down, so you've kind of got to keep that momentum. As Pop's Blocks Shop often says, keep on uploading, and it's definitely true. To keep something new coming, keep adding lots, definitely keeps people coming back to the store, and something to be mindful of moving forward. Offering condition options has proved useful. Most orders these days will have a mixture of new and used, and whilst I've kind of always set out to be a new store, working through my own used and not going out and buying marketplace and stuff like that has meant I've had kind of a good understanding of the provenance of the used that has been in stock, and therefore had quite a good understanding of it. But it has allowed me to understand what sells well in terms of used options, and that is something that I'll perhaps focus in on through 2025 to offer more in terms of high value, high frequency items in the used space. And then understanding that full-time demands. There are periods of time when family commitments are important, and there are periods of time when my freelance commitments are significant, and running the store at the same time is, it's quite demanding, and you do feel the pressure to get orders out. Over the holidays I do close the store. I know not everybody does do that, just to relieve that pressure. Coming back to 20, 30, 40 orders is a monumental task to try and get back on top of, and moving forward being mindful of that workload and commitments as a sole operator as well. I don't have people helping me in the store on any sort of basis, so managing your time, managing your priorities, focusing on the things that bring in revenue is going to be important moving through 2025. Some key stats from 2024. So the average part value per part sold in the last 6 months of 2024 was 33 cents, which is pretty decent. That accounted for 185,430 of those parts, so 300 odd thousand sold through the year. The lion's share of those sold in the last 6 months of the year. The Bricklink average for new parts is 10 to 15%. So as you can see, I am managing to sell over that. The fact that I've sold quite a volume of minifigures is probably helping that figure generally. You know, if you split out minifigures and parts, you perhaps get a slightly different figure here, but you know, on the top line, this is what it is. From total revenue, 5.13% of the inventory was sold each month, which is kind of my target, to hit 5% every month. So in the last 6 months, we've achieved that, which is really positive. And 13.87% of average revenue is spent on postage every month, which again is interesting and allows you to start to account for that. It was good doing those numbers because I felt that was a much higher total. I had it around 25%, but to see it was only 13.8% is good. Obviously there are other costs, and there will always be the doomsayers that comment on these things around taxes, write-downs, stock issues, packaging supplies, stationery supplies, you know, all of the things that you need to run a store. They're not accounted for in these figures. This is very top line, but as a tax-paying citizen, they all get done along with my business activity statements, all of that. So rest easy, people. Price per part purchased is an interesting one. I've looked at this 4 ways, and I've looked at it 5 ways actually, but I don't have enough data to be sure of used lots because they tend to be from sets. So, but I'll explain as I go. Far left there, we've got a Bricklink order that I made. This one was about 8,000 parts, and it worked out the purchase price was around 6 cents per part. A recent quite basic order from LEGO for some parts worked out at about 2 cents per part. A part out of one of the new creator sets works out at about 9 cents per part, and I did look at a few sets there. Obviously Star Wars tends to be a little bit higher. The modular Tudor building works out at 10 point something cents per part, and on the right there, Pick-a-Brick wall grab that I did earlier in this week worked out at 3 cents per part. The used set that I parted out recently, or kind of broke down, it wasn't complete. It was a Harry Potter set, and that was working out about 13 cents per part by the time I'd kind of figured out which parts, but I've not accounted that in this kind of foursome, which gives me an average purchase price for parts of around 5 cents per part, given that the average sale price has been around 33 over the last 6 months. So in terms of goals, I've kind of set 2 benchmarks here, base goals and stretch goals, because you just never know. Base goals are kind of what I think is achievable. Stretch goals is what I think would love to be able to achieve. Whether we can or not, who knows. And just a current sense check of where we're sitting in terms of size of store, certainly not in terms of lot count. I'm a little way down on the lot count, but not too bad. You know, there's a fair few stores in that 20,000 mark, of which I would like to be one by the end of the year, but we've got some work to do. But anyway, I am currently sitting 8th in Australia. Obviously, the Big Bricks warehouse sitting top of the shop there, way out in front at 2 million. An Amazing Brick Bazaar has floated and flirted with 1 million on and off. I'm told there was another store that was over 1 million. They have since kind of dropped off the radar, and with the recent closing of another store, Basil's Bricks, there's another big store gone out of this. But other than that, as you can see, there's kind of a crop of stores sitting at the 800,000 mark. Brick Den, which is another WA store, sitting at 639. Interestingly, they have very low sales volumes, probably clocking up like only just double figure sales per week. And then you've got Schmick Bricks at 558 and me just a smidge behind them, although having just done an upload today, I'm actually one up on them, so I have moved into 7th. And then we've got Gold Coast Papa Bricks down below, and then a few more at the 500 mark, and including Shannon of Every Little Brick down here, who's probably dropped a little bit because I've just bought some stuff off him as well. Not that I'm trying to nobble the competition, but essentially kind of, you know, to get anywhere up this chart, you need to be over Brickden. That's 639, and really, you know, to be second place, you need to be tipping the million. But you know, let's have a think about where we're going to be. So in terms of my kind of base goals is to hit 750,000 parts and 17,500 lots, but the stretch goal is to hit 1,020,000. My base goal for revenue is to hit 12,375 a month, and the stretch is to hit 16,500 a month. Side note there is that January this month actually surpassed that 12.3 mark, best month ever, and the first time it's ever done that. So it could be an anomaly, but certainly a promising sign moving into 2025. So the hard part, and this is where the data nerd in me kind of really kicks in. You know, growing an inventory whilst operating is difficult, especially when you base it on selling around 5% of your inventory a month, which is what I've based figures on, which means kind of an upload schedule looks like this. To target 750,000 parts, this is what that curve, which doesn't look too scary, as opposed to targeting 1,000,000 parts where the upload curve is incredibly scary. I do like a chart, but that one terrifies me. So I'm not going to run through every single part of this chart in detail, but starting inventory is where we started February. It is kind of slightly up on that now because of some uploads, but it needs to be a lot higher. Based on 5% selling in the month, we should sell 27,900 parts, which means the upload required would be 35,900. The revenue from those sales would be that. The expenditure needed to purchase 35,900 would be that, based on the average purchasing price of 5. Postage on that amount of revenue sold at 14% average would be that, leaving that kind of profit, and so on and so on. You get the idea. It does get a little bit, it's a kind of an incremental growth over the month looking at this, because you're only really trying to increase 200,000 over a 11-month period, which seems fairly achievable, if not fairly expensive to do it. But you are generating revenue as you go. I mean, the upload needed in December is a fairly substantial 43,600, which requires over $2,000 worth of spend, which again, there are months in the past when I have spent in excess of that on sets and things like that. So it's none of that scary. Based on that, the total profit, not just revenue for the year, would be sitting around 72,239. Obviously, before you all weighed in, taxes, stationery, packaging, miscellaneous costs, fees, everything else has to come out of that pot. But that's what that looks like. 1 million, interestingly, doesn't change the game too much by the end of the year. You go from 72 to 74 and a bit, right? So the actual game change isn't a lot. It's that change at December's point. The monthly revenue goes from 7,052 to 9,157. So the month on month is significant, as is the monthly uploads required. The starting upload for February is 66,900 as opposed to 35,900, which is sizable and fairly scary. But it gives you an idea of kind of the figures required to get there. So challenges, well, the investment in that is significant, obviously, not least in the fact that I am one man and the time that takes to acquire stock, put stock away, manage inventory, stock availability. Also, where am I going to get that amount of parts on a regular basis is going to be an issue. Store space is going to be an issue. There's always the expanding size on these things, but it will need some thought moving forward, as will the potential economic impacts, the changing face of global economic policy and certain events in the US and how that is affecting the world right now will yet to be seen. But none of those challenges are unsurmountable, and certainly at the 750,000 mark, it doesn't seem unachievable. Strategies to achieve that growth then. Expanding the inventory efficiently and sustainably is obviously important. Staying within that, not overstretching, but obviously purchasing at a good price point is going to be good. The lower we get, the better that efficiency. Improving store processes. I've talked about the cart, more store locations, less time sorting, less used will speed me up. Focusing on high volume turnover used parts will be key to that. Improving that purchase, I kind of touched on there, making sure I'm getting a good price. Pricing and volume, mock builders are looking for volume. They will pay a little bit more, but equally being mindful of pricing per volume and stuff like that is key, and it's something that I've always employed anyway. Enhancing that customer experience, the store gets good feedback on the packaging and the packing experience, the communication experience and stuff like that, and looking to improve that as we move forward, and I'll talk more about that sort of stuff throughout the vlogs. Marketing and visibility, always important. The blocks advert that I run has been significant in improving Brick Owl. YouTube is obviously important. Social media, I don't really do a lot beyond YouTube, do a little bit of Instagram. More of that will be needed, and more in the community. Obviously Noah, myself and Jason do some stuff already in the community, and we'll look to do more of that over the year. All three of us looking to build our stores in that space. So what next? Well, monthly reporting on these kind of goals is going to be interesting. See how we're tracking, see how we're performing, see what we need to tweak as we go. The store expansion is going to be required fairly soon. Actually, we're starting to fill up already. And there could be some movement on the location of the store, but I'm not going to talk about too much of that at the moment. More inventory data analysis will go on, and people know that I'm kind of a bit nerdy about the parts and the pricing and the sell-through. More of that is going to be happening, and I'll probably talk more about that in specific vlogs as we go. I'm going to be rolling out a bit more of a purchasing strategy. I've kind of implemented it this month, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And introducing more parting out. Definitely need to do at least one big part out a week moving forward. And again, focusing on the quality of those part outs, not just the things that I like parting out, but the quality of the parts that come with that. I have one in mind already, which you may have seen in this video already. And store processes, always room for improvement, including getting some counting scales. It will be a significant improvement, especially in those large volume counts. It is one area that slows me down. Counting 200, 300, 500 small parts can be very, very time consuming. So that will be the first cab off the rank, so to speak. And that's it. That brings us to the end of the goals for 2025. I hope that's kind of given you an insight in where we're going, what's in the future. If you've got questions, like I said at the beginning, pop them down below, drop me an email, reach out on Instagram, wherever it is, on Bricklink, whatever you want to do. Happy to answer any questions, or you can join the Discord, the channel. The link is in the comments down below, and look forward to kind of sharing how we're tracking towards the end of February, and stay tuned for more in the vlogs as we go along. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.